All right, I like this. We're gonna fine tune it. I'm gonna switch my crop because I had the vertical crop on here and I want to absolutely go horizontal. This plate, now that I've built it, is really lending itself to being horizontal. Okay, this is all available light. It's definitely hot and it's really shallow. So I'm going to change that a little bit. One, I want to play with my tilt shift just a bit. So I'm going to work here a little bit with my tilt shift or my perspective correction because I want to throw the focal plane a little bit and I'm going to throw it kind of down one side. And I'm playing with this camera because remember it's got the 1.6 crop factor on here, so I'm really using a small portion of the lens, which is having a huge effect on how the lens is actually throwing the focus because I'm only using a portion of it. And this guy I don't like right now. I know I'm going to want to switch that out, so I'm going to go get a couple of other tomatoes I can throw in there and we're going to finalize this. All right, so while I'm swapping this out, I went back to the kitchen and you can see this top tomato. I just don't like that shape. It's making a weird point coming right at me. So while I'm swapping that out, let me remind you about the PC, perspective correction or tilt shift lens, depending on what you want to call it. They are designed mainly for architectural purposes. So if you're photographing a building, which obviously is going up in height away from you if you're standing on the ground, you start to get keystoning, where the building will actually start to bow in just because of the natural perspective of the lens. So a PC allows you to shift the actual position of the lens so that those lines which are going in parallax will now come back and straighten up. You can also use it though to throw focus. So if you want to kind of shift where you're focusing on something, you can use a PC lens to throw it out a little bit. Not a ton, but enough where it's pretty cool. So right now I'm just throwing in some olives, and this is just stuff we got. This is all right off the shelf. Went to the store, picked everything right out of the shelf, and I'm just putting it together. So it really could not be easier for you to handle if you're looking to do this on your own. Keep in mind you want to keep your set nice and protected, and I'm really liking where that's going. So I always have a towel on my shoulder when I'm cooking, and when I'm shooting it's kind of no exception. I think that's looking better. So now I've got two last things that I want to do in terms of the food styling. I'm going to add some of this dressing, which is just a little bit of olive oil. I've got a little bit of blue cheese and really finely blue cheese kind of crumbled up, and I've got salt and pepper in there. So that's going to give me some added little hits of ingredient and flavor cue on top. And then I'm going to get some fresh basil and I'm going to do a chiffonade, and I'm just going to throw some basil on top of it and it'll be all ready to go. In terms of light though, I think I need a little bit of fill because it's looking just a bit dark. Now remember, we are really capitalizing on this natural light. Today we've got a really sunny day outside. We have huge windows that we've covered with a little bit of silk. That's allowing the sunlight to hit that silk, kind of drop down. It gives us direction as it comes across, so we have nice even shading. It's really pretty light. All right, I really like where this is going. I just want to add a couple of things that are going to give me some interest in the background. Maybe a little bit of shadowing. Might want to add a color to that. Small white card. I don't need something too huge. Let's see what that gives us. Ah, that blue is really distracting. Really distracting. Still is way too much. All right, let's get rid of that altogether. Ugh, don't like that. Just need a little hint of something back there. So how about, this is where it pays to have a few props right on hand. As you're going quickly, you can kind of pull something out. I just need a little bit more of a sense of environment. Like that's just not enough. It's just a surface. And I want to see a little bit more of something back there. So, and again, I'm moving quickly because my food is going to start to whoop. Remember, the last thing I'm going to do is dress it. Okay. There we go. I think just a little bit of fabric, a little something in the background might be all I need. So I'm just looking at the details and kind of fine tuning them. I'm seeing a couple of tangents. That had a little divot in it. This is tangent and I don't like that, so I'm going to just change it ever so slightly. Not bad. I can pull that out a little bit more. Just have the hit of that. Oh, I like it. All right, almost ready to go. Down to the last couple details. I can dress it and I'm done. Yeah, I like that. Simple. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I get one shot with this. Once this is on, it's kind of done. So I'm using this little eyedropper, squeezable syringe type thing to help me place these things where I want them. So I'm going to look for where I want to add color and a little bit of tone. Quick pop and see what that looks looking like. Boom. You know what? So the eyedropper is I'm actually being a little too gingerly with it. I want to be a little bit more liberal. So I'm going to do that now with the spoon. I think I may go get the peppermint and the salt too. Just may. All right, the last thing I'm going to do here is put on this fresh basil. This is stuff I just rolled and cut gently and kind of see where it goes. So again, this is really kind of organic, really loose. It's placed, it's intentional, but I'm still trying to make it feel like it just happened. That's the key, is to really make it feel like it's just kind of happened. All right, so last thing I want to do is lock up my mirror because I want to get this in focus nice and sharp. All right, look at this. Here I am thinking I'm getting it nice and relaxed, and I've created a straight line. Absolutely hate that. I got to mix that up. This stuff is nice. This is feeling loose and good. That just, no way. So, got to remind myself to get down here from the camera's perspective and make some changes. Now, I am not a lefty, but I'm coming in here with my left hand because I need it with the position that I'm in, the way my body is positioned. I'm not going to use the tweezers because I know my left hand is not that delicate. I don't like that one. Nope. Okay, mirror lock up, and then a capture. Nice, I think it's looking pretty sweet. With the exception, this guy's looking really zigzaggy. The way I rolled that basil this morning and then cut it on an angle, I'm kind of getting a zigzag pattern in the basil, which I don't love. So I'm going to break those up a little bit and make sure I eliminate that zigzag because that was unintentional. So if I were to go back and do this, I would make sure I rolled my basil a different way and allowed myself the opportunity to make it to give it a different shape. I think that's pretty good. I'm just going to do a little bit more on the plate. Maybe add some cracked pepper and call it a day. So with this camera, I don't have the right trigger. There's a separate trigger for the 70D compared to the other two cameras that we're using. So I'm going to let this camera settle for a second when I have the mirror locked up. I'm very gently going to squeeze. Because remember, I don't want any camera shake. Ooh, better. I opened up that fill card and brought it around. You can see how the fork was really kind of dying. The shadow was a little bit too deep for me, as well as some of the food up here. So just adding that little bit of fill light kind of brought that back in and it's kind of rounding that shape out. I like it. I'm happy with that. That could be my final. With the exception that I want to add a little pepper. And mainly, I'm looking at the mozzarella because it's a little too white and just needs a little bit of interest. And I'm going to get some on the plate as well. Then I'll do a couple variations with the tilt shift lens so you can see how it moves just a little bit. Ooh, that should be better. I'm going to do this quickly because I just got to move through it. Too big. Peppermill. Really and truly, you can noodle these things all day long. It's kind of crazy making, but that's the nature of food photography. The good thing is you really don't have time. You got to nail it. Better. I can live with that. I can definitely live with that. All right, I got a little too much pepper on this one spot in front, so I'm going to take some of that off. Now, a lot of times when I'm doing this, I'm moving quickly. I will absolutely throw stuff on the floor without care. I know I can get it later. Right now, it's more important to me that I get the shot. It's all in the details, remember? Okay, one last look as I'm defocusing my eyes and again going towards shape. I'm seeing right here I've created a square of basil. I don't like that. I'm going to move that a little bit, break it up, but then I think I'm done. This guy can come forward a bit, and this guy can just kind of come up here. And then let's play with this lens. One thing a photographer told me years and years and years ago when I was starting out is just to be gentle with your camera. Just squeeze it. You know, just give the trigger a squeeze. You don't want to punch it. If you punch it, then you cause camera shake. So always be really relaxed with your camera. You can see how much shake that did right there, right? Look how out of focus it is because I jerked it versus a nice, clean squeeze. See, I'm always seeing more details that I just want to finesse. It's a little maddening at times. And at some point you have to give it up because the food's going to croak. All right, that's it. I like it. I think I'm done with that shot. The exception of one last clean, because I see that I got pepper all over my fork. So I'm going to quickly hit the set, make sure it's cleaned up. And that's going to be it. One last shot. Now, let's play with this tilt shift lens a little bit. You can see how the focus is coming right across here. Let's shift this a little bit and see what we get. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rotate the PC knob, correction knob on the top in the opposite direction. So before I had the lens tilting in this direction, which was bringing the focal plane parallel to it. Now I'm going to shift it in the opposite direction. We'll see what we get. You can see the difference in it. So a couple of things happen. Number one, the perspective of the shot actually changes because the lens, as it changes its position, is seeing something a little bit different. So that's something that you have to get used to, because now I would want to probably rotate my camera a little bit. But let's take a really quick look. I actually kind of like this. I think this is nice. It's bringing my focal plane right across here. It's throwing the stuff in back out of focus a little bit more compared to this, and I like it. In fact, the other thing I like is it's kind of making the toast and stuff in background a little bit softer. So I'm going to go in that direction. I'm just going to straighten up my camera a little bit, get it in a little better position now that I've shifted the lens, and we'll take one more shot. Okay, and last shot. Split the difference. I'm going to go right here. So, my thoughts on this camera. This is not a bad little camera. I feel for me personally that this is definitely a little too entry level. It's really small in my hand. I'm missing the big, bulky, solid feel of the cameras that I've been using for years. I've always been shooting on Nikon or Canon, where I've got, you know, one of their top line, their flagship cameras, and they're just bigger and more solid. But for an entry-level $1,000 camera, I think this is a great place for you to begin. You can invest some money in a camera body that's going to give you some versatility. It's going to give you some decent quality, and then as you start to build your business, you can really step up and move away from this to something, you know, more along the flagship line. And I think that's it. I am really happy with this. Of course, I see one thing I'm going to fine-tune, because that's the way I go. All right, so let's take a really quick look at a giant light that's totally inappropriate. Let's say we get stuck on location and our assistant forgets to bring the right light and the good things that we need. So let's do a really quick test with this giant strip bank and see if we can't use just a piece of it to get us right. Okay, so right now we're kind of racing the clock because we got to pack up and get to our next location, but I told you that I wanted to show you what it would look like with a different light and a completely weird and almost inappropriate light, in that we've got this giant strip bank. I would never use this, but since I'm doing it intentionally, let's see what we can get with it. I'm going to use this strip light to my advantage. I'm going to start to kind of lay it down on top of this, and I'm going to have the light coming from the back in here, hitting that fill card and kind of pushing back in. So again, I want that kind of wrap-around light feel where the light is kind of pushing in from the back to help give me form and shape in my food. So we're gonna bring this guy in here. And you can see how incredibly dark that is on the foreground. The background is really not that bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up a little bit higher, I'm going to bring it over, and I'm going to use a larger card to push in. One light, that's all I get. Now let's tip this beast down. Awesome, thank you. All right, so I'm going to hold my fill card in here because we are going for speed as we have to get out of here. So I'm going to have two cards in here. I'm going to have this guy catching the light for this side. And I'm going to hand hold this thing in here, and I'm going to add some more light. Honestly, that's not a bad image. I can really work with that. I think had I not been using the available light to begin with and just started with this light, I'd be fine. The reason I brought this whole thing to your attention, I've had this happen before. You get out on location and the main light you think you're going to use is broken, it's left behind by accident. You never know what curveball is coming in a job, so you've got to be ready for it. So don't be afraid that, oh my God, I don't have the right light, or I forgot something, or something just broke. Be smart, be calculated, and improvise, and use your skills to make whatever is at your ready, make that work for you and not against you. I'm happy with both the images that we created here using natural light and the strobe. We've got the Canon 70D, which is a pretty entry-level camera. It's $1,000 with our 90 tilt shift lens, which is about $1,500. So all told, this package, if you use the available light only, is $2,500. That's pretty entry level in order to get yourself out there and start working as a food photographer. And again, we're playing in the kitchen, just going to the store, having some ingredients that looked fresh and delicious, and just kind of grabbing them, coming back to the studio, and giving ourselves a challenge. I only had a little bit of time to pull this together. I thought about what I wanted to cook, what would be visually interesting, and I just pulled it together. So go ahead and do this on your own.